Think should have popped up. Yes, okay, you're recording. Right.
Right.
So, welcome very much to Livvy, who is at the opposite end of the island we live on. Livvy, just to start off, um, why journalism? Why investigative journalism? Of all the things in the world you could do.
I think, like many people, I sort of fell into it, and then did it backwards. So fell into it, and then went and got the education to go with it. But I think for me, I like to find logic in chaos. So if there's a crazy situation going on, there's always a reason why. It's not, just out of the blue. There's always going to be an understanding as to why that's happened, and I like to try and understand that then, and then perhaps you can better prevent a crazy situation happening or stop it.
And did you do
Oh,
many other jobs?
Toby, get down.
Your
Dog.
dog wants in.
The dog across the road, he doesn't like it. Toby, get down.
He's protecting you from the chaos, Livvy.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. It's like, this isn't logical, but
And
yeah.
did you do many other jobs before you went into this career path to help prepare you for it, or was it
Um,
something that you just kind
I I worked all sorts. I worked in all sports. I like that though because I'm an absolute trainer addict. And Pizza Hut was my main one. 6 years Pizza Hut. Like, and it was great though because I mean, like, it supported me. I made a lot of money out of tips, being nice to people, and it got me. It supported me because obviously this is a notoriously tough industry to get into, and you need to be able to support yourself. And so it's a tough one because the expectation to work experience, but you got to earn money as well. And so I don't think it's too unfair to say to them, look, I need to go because I need to do a shift. So you do end up working like 24/7 at the beginning, and when you start getting paid, then it doesn't go back. That's one good thing.
gotcha. And was there a point when you thought, right, I'm going to really go uh, full throttle, all in into this pathway, or did it just kind of was it a phased entry into being an investigative journalist, or how did it really happen?
I think it was, I got a taster for it, doing the work experience thing while working at Pizza Hut, and just wanted to keep going really, and start getting paid for it. I'd do silly things like offer to transcribe interviews, so then I could say I'm being paid by this television production, like, but I was doing that around Pizza Hut as well, and it's yeah, I think, and then I thought, right, no, I need the right education for this. So I went and went to uni, but even on the side of that, I was doing sort of deals with people who were good to me, and said, look, instead of paying you, we'll put you on a course. And so I got a camera course out of it, and so things like that. So I was always trying to push my way in, basically.
And how important is having that story idea and the formation of a story? Because all of the people who are watching this and people who are going to watch this on the recorded version, they they want to go where you've gone. They want to be doing what you're doing. So how important is finding the right story and then trying to go with it and make it happen?
It varies from each one, but there are certain things that are always the same in the way that I do things. So say for example, like I was saying, it's about logic behind the chaos. So for instance, I did one about mopeds, and so basically there was this huge spate in moped crime, and it's okay, but why? I mean, mopeds have always been about, gang members have always been about, thieves have always been about, but why are we seeing it now? And so I start off with the kind of end result, if you like, and then try and get into that and understand why certain things are happening. So once you start scratching the surface of something, it turned out that, because I couldn't understand why everyone's stealing mobile phones again, and it didn't make sense to me because they used to be worth a lot back in the day. Then they became really cheap because of locking systems and software on the phones. But what these guys were doing is they were getting full price for a phone if they shipped them abroad, because that then changes the software. So you understand that. So in my mind, then they need to update the software, and that would prevent a lot of these thefts happening because they're worthless again. So I always start off with the kind of end result, and then try and figure out how we got to that point, and in doing so, how people could protect themselves better, prevent it better, and ultimately understand it better.
You've covered some very dangerous subject material, and you've interviewed and dealt with some very, very difficult people. What have you done to prepare yourself for working in and covering criminal behavior in many cases?
I think you obviously doing this, you end up learning a lot of the legals of it. I mean, you have to, and you have to seek advice and things like that. But I think in terms of me preparing myself for it, was something I've always been really interested in, crime and people behind it, because ultimately, if you think how many crimes are committed, we all know criminals. They're not some alien being, and so they're normal people. So I hope to go and talk to them on the normal level. And out of context, I think I've been, I want to talk to them about what they're doing, how they're doing it. And ultimately, I think if you're selling paper clips or drugs, if you're good at your business, people like to talk about it. It's just finding them and talking to them and being completely transparent. That's something I can't stress enough. I'm coming to interview about what you do, and I'm going to challenge you on it. And I think sometimes people quite like the challenge, and they like to present their case for it, whether it's right or wrong. But ultimately, as long as it's in the public interest, is often my defence for not then having to go and hand them over to the police, because obviously I couldn't do my job if I keep having to hand people over to police. Is if we can justify it within the public interest. So by talking to this, say, moped mugger, we can then understand the bigger picture, and getting him arrested, what's going to happen, it's minor, but then understand the bigger issue, you can protect the public much better.
And has there been a point when you've been working undercover and doing these investigations that you have thought, oh wow, I might not come out of this?
All the time, man. Like there've been lots. I used to do before I was doing the on-screen thing, I worked in TV for about 10 years, and my interests were exactly the same as what they are now. I was doing exactly the same, just behind the camera and filming it myself. And so I went to some tougher places, a lot of kind of Central Africa, Sudan, Congo, places like that. And I do remember someone saying, I think they're from the UN. They're an American person who's like, what are you doing here? Because I was only 25 at the time as well, and it's like, do you know what, I really don't know. Like, and then obviously looking back, it's always funny and stuff, and there are so many things that you think that could have happened, but it didn't. And so I think the most you can prepare yourself and think things through. If you don't like something, don't do it. Just don't do it. There are a few times when it's then very difficult to get out of the situation. But there are lots of things I do, even as freelance. I always make sure someone knows where I am, how long I'm going to be. So if I'm not back within 2 hours, then we have an issue, and do check-ins and things like that. So always someone's got my back, kind of thing. And I think if you're really that concerned about someone, don't go.
And because the subject material that you deal with is so challenging, how much research do you have to do into your topics, into your interviewees, into everything to make this possible?
Gosh, so basically, I start off with, say, the idea what I want to look into, and as soon as you do start sort of looking below the surface of that, it's purely research. It's all just research. It's computer. You've got speaking to people. I have certain ways that I work. So basically, I'll do all the research of online, every single name, organisation. I write them down from everything I read, even if you think this is completely irrelevant, but say a neighbour, or write their name down. And then you start building what's going to be your kind of contact list, because you never know what these people might say and how they can help you. Social media is an amazing one to find people. But I could spend hours. I mean, I was up till 2 a.m. last night just doing phone calls for something I'm working on at the moment. And it's not only that, but so now today I've got to verify every single thing that came out of it. So you think, oh, it's a great chat, I'm getting this amazing stuff, but then it's not going to stand up unless then you can, back it up, and not just by articles online, but I'm going to have to look through government reports. I'm going to have to look through, statistics, and also where they've come from, who they've come from. So with every bit of research you do, it then opens another door for even more research. So what I tend to do is I'm big into notebooks, but I also do everything on the computer. But by writing it down in a notebook, I'm getting it into my head better. And so I'm understanding and remembering things a lot better. So then you get better at kind of quizzing people on stuff and learning the content yourself of what you're finding out. But also you'll end up finding something I do quite like when I'm doing all this research. I mean, I enjoy doing research, but is you find other areas of interest. You think, hold on, that's pretty cool. Well, that's really interesting. So you meet someone who talks about it and you think, okay, that's next. So the more you do, the more you get out of it, basically. And sometimes you really don't want to, and you really can't be asked, but you've got to. And actually, if you come to a bit of a wall, and it's kind of like a roller coaster, you have really good ups, but then you've almost got to try and disprove yourself, because you need to make sure that you can verify everything. So then you'll find something that says, no, that's wrong. And so you think, oh man, I've lost the whole thing. But actually, no, you keep looking, and then you'll go up again, and then you come back down. So it's a constant. It's tough. It is tough. And I hit a wall every now and then. And if you do go out, have some fun, forget about it for a few hours, then come back to it and just knuckle down, and you'll get a break. You'll speak to one person, or even if it's not what you initially set out to do, there'll be something in there that you can use, guaranteed.
What are you most proud of? Because you put a lot of work into these at the ground level, and then when they come out and they're on the BBC, they're on Al Jazeera, they're on Channel 4, and people are watching them all around the world. Which one of your pieces do you think that's my crowning achievement?
Do you know, I think it was the mopeds one. I think it was like, just because I loved doing it. Got some great access. There, and it was unusual because at the end of the program, I don't know if you've seen it, but basically one of the guys, Mr. X, who was like a sort of main character, he showed it. He's brilliant at driving, and he's learned that purely from online gaming and stuff. So for once, because quite often with these programs is I get frustrated because you're not often allowed to offer up a solution. You can just say, look, everything's crap, everything's bad, this is the situation. But with that one, it was nice because we say, like, look, you're talented, let's see how talented you are and see what other opportunities in life you might have. And that's something we did, and I like doing that, because for once it was kind of like, okay, there is another option here. We're not just painting him out to be the villain, but his circumstances unfortunately had led him that way. So I like that one, I think.
And how long does it take you to edit these pieces together?
Oh man, that's it's meant to take forever, but and it can do. I mean, you lose hours in an edit. You can sit there and you think it's an hour has passed, and it's sort of like 8 hours later, and you always talk about being in a cave and not coming out for weeks, and you end up very pale, like jail pale. But editing can take forever, but quite often I find they'll give you, say, 6 weeks to edit it, but then you end up still shooting, or you end up so it's around the clock, basically. So I think ultimately journalism, forget you have that life, but enjoy this one is what I'd say to people, because I mean, I absolutely love it, and the things I talk about in my life are my work. My mates are cool, but I love telling them about it, and they're always like, you're doing what? So it's well worth it. If you're into it, it's really worth it.
And you're part of a wave, if it's okay to call it, of female investigative journalists. You and Stacey Dooley have broken the ceiling on what are the older men going around the place asking.
I don't know. There was Martha Gellhorn, and I remember I read her book, and she said, if you're going to war, always wear a skirt. It was brilliant. But she was about a long time ago. Yeah, no, I think people often ask me, if it's there's a difference because someone treats you badly because you're a woman, but ultimately I always think if someone treats me badly, it's because they're an arsehole, not because I'm a woman.
Yeah.
They've got issues, not me.
Yeah.
So I won't have that.
No, you're 100% right. I'm moving forward before I hand it over to the folks here. Uh, Best case scenario, perfect world, 5 years from now, what would you have covered that you haven't covered yet?
Oh, that's a tough one because I don't know what's. We've got to get out of lockdown first, James.
Yeah.
Give me a chance. I don't know. I mean, there's a project I'm working on at the moment, which, like I said, I was up till silly o'clock last night doing, and I will be up till silly o'clock tonight doing it. So I don't know. It's so unpredictable what happens, what changes occur. I hope to just still be doing what I'm doing. I really do, and just be getting better and better at it. Because I think with every investigation, you're dealing with different people. It's a different investigation. Different things happen. So I don't think it's possible to ever quite master it. And then how you put the thing together, that's a whole other thing. So it's a constant learning experience. But I think that's what I really enjoy about it. It's each one's a sort of adventure in their own right, and you end up hating it halfway through and thinking, oh God, why do I do this? And I sort of said to my mum, why didn't I get a hair salon or something, like, and do hair and nails? Well, Pizza Hut wasn't so bad. But yeah, but then you end up loving it again.
No, I totally understand. I'm going to hand you over to Esther, and I'm going to mute my microphone.
Hi.
Hi, thank you so much for speaking to us. My question is, so I get the sense that speaking to people is probably the most important or one of the most important parts of your job. So I wonder, how do you deal with rejection and someone who doesn't want to take part or speak to you? If you have any techniques or tips for convincing them, or you just move on, or how do you deal with that?
That's something that is daily an issue. You're absolutely right. So I think firstly it's a numbers game. So make sure you've got enough, because I've had it where we've gone completely filmed with someone, you feel like, right, we've nailed it, we've got it, spent hours with them, and then last minute that time I'm like, do you know what, I don't want to do it. And you're in this difficult position. It's like, well, do you know what, you can't force anyone, and I don't want to be, ethically I don't like that. So it's a numbers game. So if you have enough kind of backup options, which is incredibly hard, with something which is an investigation, because it's always so sort of niche, it's so important to that one investigation. But I think if you are doing enough research, you can scramble someone together, you can find somebody. But it is really hard, and sometimes people, you come across strange, or I certainly have come across strange people in what I do. And some people, they have an ego, and that's why they want to do it. So you kind of got to get past that and, make sure they are what they say they are. And then other people I've had who are, on a campaign to do something, and you can't really have that. You need to get past that as well. And just sort of break down walls. And I think it's just be yourself and be transparent. Like, say that I am this and this is what I'm wanting to do. You tell me where you're coming from, kind of thing, and what you're comfortable with as well. I think sometimes it does take time. I spend hours with some people, just getting to know them, gaining their trust, hanging out pretty much, to understand their world better and respect their world. So if it's some people, they don't get up before like 2 p.m, so don't call them till after 2 p.m, and that's something I find difficult with sometimes I work with other people and they're like, okay, we'll book them in for 9 a.m. It's like, that's not gonna work. Like, that's not the world they live in. So we'll be doing some late nights.
And do you usually keep in touch with them after the project is done?
I think, yeah, I try to, because I don't want anyone dissatisfied with how they've come across. I want everyone to be happy. It's honest, it's real, it's it is what it is. And for someone to be so upset that I can't maintain contact with them afterwards, I would hate that. So I do try, and also your contacts. For me, my contacts have sort of become my my thing, if you like. So I check in with people a lot, and you're not mates, but how you doing, what's going on, do you know anything that's going on. And it's funny, certain people shrug you off, or they change their numbers, you lose touch, or they get nicked in my case. But other people have been really good at staying in touch and keen to tell me about what's going on in their world. So that can be really helpful. And the more people you have their trust, and they can recommend you to other people, and you get sort of I don't know how you say it, you get the okay from certain people who'll pass you on to other people. And especially with me dealing with criminals, that can be really helpful, that someone has they trust me, and they can put me in touch with someone else. And you always have to jump through certain hoops and like get sussed out a bit, but I have nothing to hide, so they bring it.
And I have one last question. I wonder if you have ever been involved with the police, or that you had to go to court, testify, if you ever got wrapped up in that side of the things.
Let me think. No, because I think police and things like that. I think I remember something like, say, the Moped film going out. I was worried. I thought, man, they're going to come knocking on my door. But actually, I've not done anything wrong. I've if anything, brought to them, the face of a crime that they are having just as much trouble with. So sometimes I get quite a lot of props from police and people from security industry reaching out to me and saying, do you know what, you hit head on that one. Which is really, really reassuring. It's really good. But I'm sure there'll be one, there'll be something in the future. I don't know. But as long as I'm covered as much as I possibly can be, I'm not committing any crimes, not paying anyone, not doing anything I shouldn't be doing, then things should be fine. And it's to make, it sounds so cheesy, but to make community better and everyone work together better, ultimately, is my goal.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Kyle, if you want to unmute your mic. Kyle has replied, how do you gain the trust of subjects doing illegal things to the level where they will talk?
I think it's the same as gaining the trust of anyone. It's like I say, be transparent, set out, look, I'm trying to do this. Something that I have found has helped in the past is, once you've done a few programs, or you've worked with certain people in the same sort of area, so crime perhaps, tell them about it and say, look, this is how I did it with these guys. And I said, you guys disguise yourself to where you're comfortable, and you turn up like that. Then it's on your head, be it, sort of thing. And just negotiate things. You let people feel like they have a voice and they are still in control. So I say, look, if anything you don't like me asking, just tell me shut up. Say, I don't want to answer that. Fine, okay, let's ask another question, or let's do that. And eventually you can kind of build trust with people. I think small steps sometimes is the best. And don't sort of agree to meet with someone and then turn up with another 5 people. You say, look, it's going to be me, I'm going to have to bring this other guy along, are you cool with that? Or we can meet around the corner first, and then if you want to have a look, then we can go and bring him. So everything is a sort of, how are you most comfortable, and let's make it work for you as much as I need to do my job. So we can meet somewhere, we can sort this out.
Kyle, any other questions? We got a message here. And is it worth playing devil's advocate in these situations? Says Kyle.
What do you mean devil's advocate?
Do you mean to play? Oh, to play? Is it to offer the other side, Kyle? Let's see what you write. Yeah, is it worth being like trying to I suppose be on their side, but also kind of show them both sides of the coin, so that they're not as concerned?
I think just be transparent. Say, look, this is what I'm investigating this. I'm trying to find out about this. You obviously know about this. Can you tell me about it? And and then also, people are going to judge you for this, and they're going to want me to ask you. You do you have the right to do this? So I think it's all quite reasonable, really, and just being transparent, just, you know, holding my cards up, like, you know, tell me how, from your point of view, how is it? But then obviously I'm going to have to ask you some tougher questions, because it's not, you know, it's illegal, you know, this isn't right. And I think anyone who's reasonable and is articulate and can talk about that, then they're gonna. But I think if you have someone who's going to be like flying off the handle about them, that's not someone you can rely to get an honest answer from either, you know. And you do get a lot of those. You do end up meeting some crazies, and but I think then that's important to take everything they say with a pinch of salt. Just because, you know, surely then they can't articulate what they're trying to say if they're going to keep flying off the handle about everything. So how much use is what they have to say, kind of thing.
That's true, and it's good. It's harder for you to have to edit through so much of that material to then find the actual substance.
Yeah, yeah. But I transcribe everything, and I think, like, even a lot of production companies will, you know, and send it out and pay someone to do it. But if they do, then great, that saves you so much time. But read through them and just highlight everything, like everything. That I always have different grades of, okay, that's a really cool thing to say, or that's quite interesting, that could link with that. So you, like, literally my transcripts and stuff look multicolored by the time I'm done with it. But you make yourself codes, and it just saves you so much time. And also, you know, because it's amazing how much you forget straight away from you do an interview, and you'll forget what was the good bit, what was the bad bit, because you're thinking about what the next question is going to be. So it's so important to kind of look back at what you're getting. It takes time, and it's I'll be like, last night I'm sat there like, all this afternoon I'm going to be transcribing all of this stuff I got last night. So it, you know, it is a process, but you'll get to know your stuff so much better.
John, over to you. You need to unmute, John.
Oh, I can't hear you.
Better?
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Sorry about that. I've got a background in print media, and I'm interested in going into television. Did you ever? I mean, you've mentioned your note taking and your transcribing. Did you ever write as well, or was it always television you wanted to work in?
So my first ever thing was a written piece I did about my mate's little boy, because he and it was for like Pick Me Up magazine, and he had been misdiagnosed, he had cancer, but they had all said no, he doesn't. So yeah, so I did some print. I'm a bit scared of doing the written work, but every so often, I mean, I had an article go out about 2 weeks ago, and I think there's a lot of, if you do TV and print, probably, I mean, a lot of my research is print articles, so there's a lot of crossover, and so from TV, then often when I've got a program coming out, I'll approach the papers and say, look, do you want to feature on this, or can I write you an exclusive on this? We've got this, and send them some clips of the program. So there's a lot of crossover, and I think it's good to know both worlds. I'm less educated on the print world, and you know, it's not like I can ring up the what I call the commissioners or the editors, and but I've been working with a print journalist recently who is a lot more sort of in that world, and so between us, we can help each other out, sort of thing. So I think it's good to just build your network, build contacts. If you really like someone's article, follow them on Twitter, and the same with TV programs. I'm rubbish at social media, and I'm trying to improve it, because that's
I'm the same.
Everyone has to tell me, right, you need to post something about that. But you know, you watch what other people are doing, and I think that the more you speak to people in both fields, the more you'll have your own kind of place in that field. So, you know, I see you're doing this, I'm actually looking into this, I'm interested in this, let's have a little chat, maybe meet for coffee. You know, all of that stuff can really help.
The other thing I wanted to ask you, was, you obviously come up with the ideas. You thought about the mopeds thing. You were saying what's going on here. So that was very much your inception, your story. Do you find that it's much better to work on things that are off your own back rather than being given to you stories to investigate?
I personally, I've done a little bit of both. Well, the majority have been. Sorry, I'm getting coffee. The majority have been, like as you say, my idea, my pitch. I've kind of walked in and said, look, I really want to do something on this. Like, this is a really good investigation. But then there have been the odd time when it's the way different kind of formats work as well. So I remember being so disappointed when I worked on a Panorama years ago behind the camera, and the reporter, who my understanding was, so and so investigates, and they had obviously been given this subject. So I was a little bit disappointed. I thought, oh man, like I thought this was them,
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of that, but I think that's very much the old school way, and things are changing. I obviously would very much like to be across my stuff so much more. So I like it when it has been mine. Otherwise, for me to pitch an idea, the amount of work I've already done looked into it before I can even pitch it, I know my subject, and so to be given something and be told, right, you're going to be on this for 5 days, the production team are going to be working it over the next 3 months, but you're going to have 5 days on it. Then in my head, I'm thinking, okay, you're going to pay me for 5 days, but for me to be able to do a good job on it, I'm going to be working in my own time for 3 months on it, 4 months on it, reading up, because I feel silly that I can't know my subject well enough, and also, what's the point in rocking up and just, being given something? I don't get it.
I've got one final quick question, if that's okay. I mean, I take it you're working with staff. What do you look for in the staff that you're working with?
With staff?
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, I don't really have much staff. I mean, it's literally me and a director normally. And if you're lucky, when I went to the Philippines, we had an assistant producer who was amazing, and she was brilliant, and really half the workload. I mean, she was crazy about this topic, which I think that's the thing. I think it's someone who's passionate about what they're doing, who's really into it, who's got ideas about it and is thinking about it, is open to ideas too, because it's such a collaboration. And I think normally it's just, like I say, me and a director. I'll produce, they direct, and I'll host or whatever. But I think you end up, it's a bizarre situation. So especially when I was behind camera as well, you get thrown into a topic. You've got like 3 months or whatever to do it, film it, find the people, everything. So you're literally best buddies for 3 months, or you're going to have to be best buddies for the next 3 months. And you're going to be, away together. You're going to be traveling together. You're going to be. So it's a really strange thing. So you get very quickly, you get to know people extremely quickly, and in their most stressful times as well. So it can either, you end up best mates by the end of it, or there's other people I think, oh no, I hope I don't, because I feel bad. I think, oh no, they had to put up with me for 3 months. And but you learn, it's all sort of learning, I think, and being able to work with people. So I think just anyone who's open and has an element of fun, I like, because you have to be able to laugh about things, because it is tough.
Yeah. No, great. Thanks very much.
That's okay.
Livvy, just one last thing.
Yes.
What's your toughest interview? Who's been your toughest interviewee?
I think the one I was most scared of was a lady who's basically I was doing the deadliest place to deal in the Philippines, and it was all about the war on drugs in the Philippines, and with President Duterte, and he didn't take kindly at the time with it was really going off, and it was about 3 months into his takeover and this war on drugs, and so the death toll was enormous. But then you'd hear, the more you talk to people on the ground, they'd say, oh, they're adding human rights activists, they're adding journalists, or they're naming and shaming journalists and accusing them of scandals and politicians and things, and it was getting really personal on people. And so and I was there to criticize this, so that's always in the back of your mind. And then we obviously wanted to interview the president himself, although I was very nervous to do so, because I think a couple of days before we were going to leave, he got questioned quite unpleasantly by a British journalist, and got literally, the British journalist was shamed and like thrown out of this room, and it was like global news, and I was like, oh god. But I got his sister, and she was a really good interviewee, but very, I mean, she ordered, I think, a lot of food off the menu, so there were all these distracting things going on. She turned up with loads of guys at this hotel, and it was just me and the director. It was intimidating. I always look scruffy, and of course she was immaculate, and it was, the whole thing was intimidating. And she told me all about her brother and the politics there, and kind of literally, like, in a very fair way, said, you know, this isn't your business, piss off, kind of thing. But sat there eating the whole time, and the whole thing, I'd love to try it again and meet her again now, because I think I'd come at it with a lot more sort of confidence. But I think for me, my toughest interviews are always with authorities. I think I don't know why I'm like that. I think anyone who's sort of in a suit scares the crap out of me. Like, whereas if they've got a balaclava on, you're fine. But yeah, also police, things like that. I'm still really learning how to sort of be confident and assert myself in a way to you know, demand respect, I think. And but you're right, I'm my own worst enemy, I think, at that.
That's a fantastic quote. If they're in a suit, they scared the crap out of me. But if they're in a balaclava, they're fine.
Yeah, it's true.
We will leave it there. Thank you so much for your time, your
Thank
effort, your energy, and hopefully we get to speak to you again in the coming academic year. And we're very, very grateful. It's a great way to end our school year in the middle of a pandemic.
Well, whoop, whoop.
With your confidence. So thank you so much, and stay safe. And
and you guys.
Thanks very much.
You take care. Wash your hands. Don't go to the shops.